About 7 a.m. this morning, I was woken up to the sound of somebody screaming, yelling. And, I knew who it was. I knew what they were screaming about because this is not the first time. Somebody nearby me, they are prone to domestic disturbances. I can hear them yelling at weird hours all the time. Two young children, and I feel bad for them because they're pretty constantly exposed to this kind of thing. And I can't make a judgment about this because, some people can't help it. But the question is why? And this got me thinking, and of course I couldn't sleep because I'd been woken up by this. And it got me thinking, like, is this an addiction? Is this the result of an addiction? And I mean, maybe she or the person that she's yelling at are afflicted by an addiction to something else. And yeah, probably there is some of that involved. But what if it's the drama itself, the yelling itself, that's the object of addiction? It would seem strange to be addicted to something that's so unpleasant. Because, like, it doesn't often feel great to be that angry, to be that yelling about stuff. If anything, it's the least pleasant thing I can possibly imagine. But on the other hand, there is some merit to the idea. If we adopt the hypothesis that addiction is actually a way of managing chronic discomfort, rather than some sort of a chemical habituation, as the traditional model would suggest, if we think of it in this way as a way to manage chronic discomfort, this unpleasant experience of high intensity emotions and anger and rage and yelliness can actually do that. It can displace discomfort. Because if you're experiencing an emotion that's that intense, that uncomfortable, that unpleasant, it can actually displace some other uncomfortable sensation. Much the same way where, like, if you have a headache or something and you, like, pinch yourself, momentarily the headache feels a little less bad because your attention is suddenly focused on something else, something that's equally unpleasant, but in a different location. Same thing with, like, the people who, like, self-harming behaviors, like the people who cut, the people who, do that sort of thing. It's another way of displacing vague and diffuse pain with a distinct and perceptible pain. A pain that you can actually pay attention to, that you actually have a cause for, that actually has an explanation. Because oftentimes discomforts and pains that you don't have an explanation for, that aren't really rational, are the ones that are most difficult to deal with. If you at least know that there's a pain, if you at least are able to control that pain, if you have at least an explanation for that pain, then it's a little less helplessness generating. As somebody who's suffered from depression for basically my whole life, I can definitely say that a distinct pain, an acute pain, is actually a lot easier to deal with than this vague sense of because that vague sense of ugh, it's paralyzing. And it's also like, it saps the energy out of everything. It makes it so that I can't really get anything done. I can't, make a video or write a script or write an essay or whatever else. Because it's like I have no control over it. I have no way to actually even articulate what it is that I'm feeling. Because it's not really distinctly unpleasant, but it's also like definitely unpleasant. It's like a numbness, like a just emptiness. So having a sensation that's like actively, actually, perceptibly unpleasant, it gives me a sense that there's something there. It gives me a sense that, like, ow, this thing hurts. It gives me an explanation as to why I don't feel good. Now, when I was younger, before I recognized what depression was and that I was experiencing it, I would find reasons for why I felt so bad. And if I couldn't find a rational reason for why I felt bad, I would make one. Now, there's lots of different ways of making a reason to feel bad. And this could be like alienating someone, making them dislike you, constructing social situations that are unpleasant to oneself, And indeed, yes, sometimes physical pain. I would do dangerous things. I would do stuff that would cause myself, minor injuries. But at least it was something that I could be like, ow, this thing hurts, rather than just, I feel bad and I don't know why. At least I felt like I was in control. Because not being in control, not having agency, is a form of discomfort in and of itself. And if you're not in control of the discomfort that you're feeling, it's like pain squared. So in this light, it kind of makes sense that someone might manufacture a reason for their discomfort. And so thus, my supposition that this yelling, this interpersonal drama, this aggression, is probably a pain management thing. It's probably a way to deal with the unpleasant, bubbling discomfort inside and externalize it. Find a way to foist it on someone else. Find a way to manufacture a reason for one's discomfort, whether it be a sense of persecution or a sense of righteous indignation that somebody else has wronged you. Oftentimes this ends up the target of one's romantic partners or family or roommates or whatever else. Or for that matter, just like wear oneself out. If one has spent that much emotional energy on a display of that intensity, well, it's hard to feel anything at all after that's done. After I've had a good rage or a temper tantrum or whatever else, there's this catharsis that comes on. It's numbing, it's relieving in a way. It makes it so that the bad feels aren't quite as easy to feel. And it's the same sort of way with a lot of really high-intensity drugs, because we usually think of anesthetics as being, your standard, your opiates, your alcohol, your cannabis, that sort of thing. But even things that don't really work as anesthetics, as you would usually think of them, kind of act as anesthetics. Something like cocaine or methamphetamine or something like that. It's providing such intense sensation that you can't really keep up with it for long. And eventually you become numbed to the rest of sensation because you've been overwhelmed. And this kind of ties into what I was talking about yesterday with this addiction to notifications. If you're constantly being inundated with all this information, all these notifications, all this feed of information, emotional content, intellectual content, passive entertainment content, even just absorbing the drama of other people, watching other people doing dramatic things, emotionally volatile things to each other. Like, you watch various reality shows and that's basically the entirety of the content. If you're taking in that much emotionally loaded content, it's difficult to really sense emotions in yourself anymore because you've had all that stuff burned out. And I'm trying not to judge. I'm really trying not to be judgmental and moralize against this person who's doing this, but they're visiting harm on people around them. Their children are not being affected well by this. I'm picturing them someday talking to a psychiatrist about these early experiences of trauma. I also grew up in a yelly household. My parents were pretty emotionally volatile when I was young, and they're better now, but the conflict really did impress upon me. I'm pretty allergic to conflict now because I find it so uncomfortable to be around. And just overhearing this, the yelling this morning, kind of brought me back, kind of reminded me of what it was like to be exposed on a regular basis to that level of conflict. I don't know how to help. I don't have a way of helping the situation because, it's not my place. It's not my it's not my backyard to intervene when they've clearly got their own family life and their own family issues. I just hope that they can find some way of managing this that doesn't end up hurting their children. What can we learn from this, though? What can we take from this? Well, it's the same as the notifications. Recognize when it is that you're using emotional content in order to deal with other emotional content. Recognize that there is a displacement taking place here, and that, sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you gotta anesthetize away the bad feels in some way or another, but at least do so in a non-harmful way. Try not to visit it on people that don't deserve your hostility. watch The Housewives of New Jersey or something like that. There is a whole genre of reality TV that is designed to do this. So, I mean, that's probably the least harmful way of dealing with these feelings, but there are better ways. If you find yourself subjected to somebody like this, somebody who uses abuse of you as a way of controlling their own bad feels, don't feel like you have to take it. Don't feel responsible to that person because you are the implement of their anesthesia. Don't feel like you have to stick around and endure it for their sake, because you don't deserve that. No matter what narrative you have in your life that makes you think that you deserve to be the punching bag of somebody else, it ain't true. Nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves to be the implement of someone else trying to gain control of their life. I've certainly been guilty of this before, and I've also been the target of this before, and it doesn't feel good for neither the person who is receiving nor giving this. And it's not effective in terms of gaining control of one's emotions anyway. It's only temporary relief. It's never really going to get better until you, deal with your bullshit. So yeah, get help. Find someone that you can talk to, someone who can help you dig through the reason for this. And if you're the victim, get out. Run away. I know it's not as easy as that. I know that sometimes relationships are difficult to extract one from, but don't feel obligated. Anyway, this stuff is a little bit triggering for me, so I'm going to go lay down for a while. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. If you did, hit the like button, algorithmic stuff, whatever. I'm going to continue working on this whole addiction line because I think it's a useful way of looking at a lot of the social phenomena we find ourselves exposed to. And I'll have a long-form video essay on the topic coming soon. So again, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.